The community continues to prepare for the Broncos' potential move to a new stadium at Burnham Yard in 2031. But the site is on the home of a former active rail yard and may need environmental fixes for any spills that contaminated the soil. Here's Spencer Soiter.
This soil ends up being a problem, you can physically remove it.
This tree and the soil around it will help us explain the environmental tests that will happen where the Broncos plan to build their new stadium.
If it's not being a problem, you can leave it. And that has to be determined.
John Spear is a professor in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department at Colorado School of Mines.
It's stuff that can be in the soil.
Burnham Yard, where the Broncos are going to build, is on a historic rail yard that John says will need to be tested and possibly remediated.
Diesel engines, diesel locomotives, rail cars that spilled or leaked over the time course of the history of these yards. And that sort of stuff's going to be just sitting in there in the subsurface. They call them leaching tests.
John says just like in the mines lab, whoever ends up running the tests will be examining microbes, looking for problematic things that may be in the soil in ways they can either cap it or remove them.
We can look at microbes in soil samples right here, for example. We can light them up and get an idea of microplastics that are present in something.
A big one, John says, is probably just dust and particles that could blow from the site and be inhaled by people. Building stadiums on rail yards is not a new concept. Coors Field was built on one too. Cheaper land that costs less to fix than paying a premium for elsewhere.
Hey everybody, how are y'all doing?
The topic is part of John's class today.
When you think about that's passed through that site in terms of everything that's on the rail cars. Leaks, potentials, they fixed diesel locomotives there for a long time.
As the students talk through how they would make sure the site is safe for future crowds.
So you can imagine there are diesel plumes in the subsurface, and those sort of things have to be reclaimed and remediated before they build a stadium.
So the land that the Broncos will likely buy is owned by CDOT. They bought it in 2021. We made attempts to talk with them for most of today about the previous tests that they've run at the site and how recently they've done them. We know of a test that was paid for in 2022. Spear says he really doesn't see a scenario where anything found is bad enough to derail this deal, and that microbes sitting longer in the soil may actually be a good thing as chemicals can get absorbed and compounds can be broken down, Angeline.
All right, so when we talk about responsibility, though, who actually is responsible for that cleanup and the cost?
So I just heard back from CDOT just a couple of minutes ago. They do not know how much this is going to cost. They'll know more about that as they do the building. However, they say it's going to be the responsibility of the developer who ends up buying this, which in this case would likely be the Broncos.
Right, exactly. Okay, thanks so much, Spencer.